Hello, I'm Dr. Basil Considine. I'm here from the ACU Online Writing Center, and today we're going to be talking about how to write about diverse sources. Now, there are many different programs at Abilene Christian University Online, and we have many different assignments. And the types of sources that you might be citing in a paper can range tremendously, from journal articles to magazine articles to books to videos of various sorts and various platforms. And many students are kind of thrown for a loop when they're looking at new types of sources and wondering, how do I write about those? How do I cite them? And so this webinar is designed to demystify these things, to delve into, okay, how exactly do you cite this specific type of thing that you have to do? And we're going to be using an assignment from the LEAD program, from the Educational Leadership Doctoral Program, but the principles apply regardless of what class you're taking if you have to cite, reference, or write about any of these sources. So let's just dive in right now, and I'll call your attention to the course catalog that we have on our Writing Webinars archive page, where you can select your program and see all of the webinars that directly align with courses and assignments in that program. You'll see me using the APA course paper template linked at the top here. So our first objective here is to understand the specific things being asked in the assignment we're using as a catalyst for our discussion. This is the Week 1 assignment from Leadership 751, The Case of Southwest Airlines. And this assignment requires that you draw upon, reference, cite, and write about a wide variety of sources. And so our second objective is to understand how to cite and reference those specific things, and then we'll finish with a discussion of how to move from the assignment instructions into outlining and drafting the paper. So with no further ado, let's take a look at that assignment. So this is coming from the Positive Organizational Culture course. And this assignment asks you to write a 3 to 6 page paper, which includes an introduction and a conclusion, and to do a few things. To synthesize your understanding of various course readings and other resources like videos. To go ahead and to discuss the case study outlined in the course packet, and then to view some related videos, including a long interview with one of the leading executives in Southwest Airlines, to watch the Day in the Life video, and to respond to a number of prompts. Here we have, what is organizational excellence? What are some of the drivers of Southwest excellence? What is the culture like at Southwest? Is it strong, distinctive? How is culture maintained? What's the leader's role? How do you think Kelleher's personality influences culture? Do you think Southwest's approach to hiring and onboarding influences culture? And address other aspects of Southwest's business model that may influence culture. With all this, you need to make sure that you support your assertions by citing the readings and resources, so have specific citations to back up your claims. And in that conclusion, to draw things together and demonstrate that you've thought about how all this creates new meaning together. What are the implications of all of this? And then if we look at the rubric, we see, okay, of the total points for this assignment, 1/4 go for the synthesis section. We have roughly a 60% of the points going to the addressing the different prompts for the main section after the synthesis, and then the remaining 4 points, the remaining third of the credit, is have you written it with the specific parameters, is it formatted correctly, and does it meet doctoral level writing standards? And because those all do involve how things look, how they read, clarity, focus, we'll talk about those some more in a bit. So let's back up here and take a look at the instructions here. So where people usually go astray with the synthesis portion is they will summarize the literature, but they won't talk about how it connects, how the different things compare. Is this something that's repeated in multiple sources? Is this something that contradicts another thing, perhaps? What does it mean when put together? And that big picture view, there are a number of ways you can show it. Topic sentences help. Logical bridges, so we can see how the different things are connected. Making sure that you are discussing how the evidence is similar or not similar to things, that's the analysis. And then the new meaning, that's the synthesis. And so if you clearly outline all those things, this section goes pretty well. If you don't go that extra step of filling in the gaps, showing how it all connects, then it's easy to lose credit here. Now, the case study application, this is where you start really going into a number of different sources, and where, for example, when talking about Herb Kelleher, it might be helpful to actually quote him, since he is talking in that video. So that does require that you use more than just the reading, more than just the course packet, and to be able to refer to all these things. So with that, let us move to the next step, just how to cite and reference the diverse source types specifically used in this assignment. So let's briefly step back and talk about the difference between the reference section and citations in the body of your document. So the reference section is a guide for locating the particular source of information. It's all collected in a list at the end of your paper. And the reference section is filled with reference entries. Now, citations are the shorthand key to go look something up in the references section. And depending on what you're using it for and how you're using it, you will have 2 to 3 pieces of information. The author or authors who wrote the source or created it, the date, meaning the year that it was published, and then if you are quoting, if you are repeating the specific words from the source, page number, paragraph number, or timestamp. The page number is if the source has page numbers. Paragraph number, if it's a textual source that doesn't, you just count paragraphs starting from the top. And timestamp would be if you have audio or visual, where you can say, for example, 3 minutes, 13 seconds to 3 minutes, 22 seconds. Now, if we look at the week 1 reading and resources, there are a fair bit of things here. It's an extensive list, but if we start classifying them, it actually ends up being a relatively small number of types, because these first 4 sources are all books. Not edited books where there are different writers for each chapter. These are single author or sets of authors for the whole book. And then if we look at this next one, that is a online magazine article. So is the next one. Following that, the 2 Harvard Business Review things, those are journal articles. And then we've got some unpublished material in the form of the case study in the course pack. That's unpublished in the sense that it's not something that is available to the general public, like material that's just on the course website. That is things that are not counted in APA style as being formally published. More on that in a little bit. If we continue our journey through the sources for this assignment and this module, we have a number of videos on YouTube. We have a TED video here, a TED Talk. So that's a video but on a different program, a different platform. Looking at the recommended readings, we have at the bottom, creating a video in Canvas. Yeah, that's a helpful thing, but not something you should be citing in this assignment, because it's more about this is a useful thing to be able to do for some of the other assignments. So not something you should be citing here. But we have at the top, journal article, another journal article, and another TED Talk video. So if we break that down, we have, for this assignment in this module, we have books, journal articles, online magazine articles, TED Talk videos, YouTube videos, and that unpublished case study in the course packet. So we could look all these up in the APA style guide that is available online. If you have a copy of the printed APA manual, awesome. That goes into more detail with many more examples and many more specific cases. But for the most common things, you can find those examples on the official APA style website, which is linked here. Now, whatever it is that you are citing and referring to in APA style, you're generally going to be giving a standard set of information for the reference. Who wrote it? When was it published? What's it called? And how do you find it? So for a book with one author, that's going to look like this. And if you're curious, all the examples here are drawn from things that are actually on your reading list for week 1, for the week 1, module 1. You can see that we have the author's last name, their initials with a space in between them, the publication year, that's 2017. The title, Organizational Culture and Leadership, is in sentence case and italicized. The edition information is in parentheses but not italicized. And then we have the publisher name, which is John Wiley & Sons. So note that there is no city and state. That requirement has been dropped. That was required in APA 6th edition, but not in APA 7th edition, which we're using. If you're going to cite it, we just have the last name, Shine, and the publication year, 2017. Or if you were going to be quoting directly, you'd want to include the page number as well. Now note that you can use page numbers in citations for things that don't include direct quotes. It's just usually considered a superfluous and distracting detail. But it is something where if you find it easier to mark exactly where you're referring to in the documents, you can quickly go back to it. There's nothing wrong with that. It's not, strictly speaking, necessary. So looking at the prompts on the left-hand side, who wrote it? Okay, Shine, E.H. When was it published? 2017. What's it called? Organizational Culture and Leadership. How do you find it? Oh, you contact the publisher, John Wiley & Sons. Now, if it's a book with 2 authors, it's basically the same, except that we add a comma and an ampersand before the next author. If we had 3, we'd have them chained. First author's last name, initial, period, comma. Second, last name, comma, initial, period, comma, then the ampersand and to the last author. Do note that compared to this one, which just has the title, Organizational Culture and Leadership, this one has a subtitle that Gallup finds. And so even if Gallup wasn't a proper noun, you'd still be capitalizing the first letter of that first word of the subtitle. And here's how that would be cited. Note that if the author names are listed in parentheses, use the ampersand instead of spelling out the word and. And the examples here, which also show you how to mark a page range using that end dash there and 2 P's, PP period, instead of just 1. And here we have a online journal article, or a journal article that is also available online. And we see we have multiple authors separated by commas and then the ampersand before the last author's last name. We have the title of the article, that is The Leader's Guide to Corporate Culture. And then how do you find it? Well, you look in Harvard Business Review, Volume 96, Issue 1, pages 44 to 52, or go to the link that you see there. So it's the same questions, the same prompts being answered. Who wrote it? When was it published? What's it called? How do you find it? And there's a little bit more for that how do you find it, but it's the same set of questions, the same idea of the kinds of information that you're providing. All right. Now, for that, see the citation would be abbreviated Groisberg et al. And this is something that changed in APA 7th edition compared to APA 6. In APA 6, you would, for sources with 3 to 5 authors, you would spell them out the first time, then abbreviate. But if there were 6 or more authors, you'd immediately abbreviate it. Here in APA 7th edition, it's more consistent. If there are 3 or more, you immediately abbreviate to first author et al. When you're citing it. And because we have that link to the online version, which is not paginated, if you're citing that, you would use the paragraph counting system. So para, period, 3 for the 3rd paragraph. All right, let's look at something that's often confused, which is an online magazine article. Now, somewhat confusingly, Harvard Business Review has the regular review that is printed and also posted online. And they also have digital-only articles, which we have an example here. And you want to look at the page because if it says it was printed in Harvard Business Review or it appeared in a particular issue of Harvard Business Review, then it's the journal article form that you see here. If it doesn't have that, if it says it's one of the digital article supplements, then that is coming from the online magazine. That confusingly, they share the same web page, and you can't tell just by looking at the URL which is which. You have to look on the page itself to tell you that. But besides that little note, because it's an online magazine article, we include the year, the month, and the day in the reference entry, but in the citation it's still just 2015, just the publication year. And again, because this is being accessed in a non-paginated fashion or format, we go with counting the paragraph numbers for quotes. Alright, next up, let's take a look at YouTube video. And this is something where often people, the first time they have to do it, they're not sure where to look. But as I call your attention to it, you'll see that for the YouTube video, okay, 60 Minutes, that's the name of the channel going in the author place. January 5th, 2019, just under the title. Okay, yep, that gets reformatted, but stuck right into the date area. The title is the 60 Minutes interview, Southwest Airlines. So that is the same information that is in the title area here. So if you're looking underneath the play controls, the 60 Minutes interview, Southwest Airlines, yep, that's the title of the video. You want to format it in sentence case. It happens that it is already in sentence case in this specific example. You want to add a note in square brackets. This is a video. Note the capital V. And the platform is YouTube. And then you include the link. By the way, if you click on that share button, you can get the shortened form of the link that you see listed here. And if you're going to cite it, well, we cite 60 Minutes as the author because that's what's in the reference list. That's the name of the channel. And because this is a video, if you're going to be quoting from it directly, you want to mark it with a timestamp like you see at the bottom. Now, TED videos are also confusing, and the guidelines have changed a little bit over the years, but here's what we have now. So for a TED Talk that is hosted on YouTube, you follow the exact same rules as for any other YouTube video, like we were just looking at. But if it's hosted on the TED website, TED.com, then we do something a little different. Because on TED.com, at first glance, they're listing what appear to be channel names, for example, TEDx Omaha or TEDxBU. But if you scroll down, you'll find that the main speaker for each video is listed. And the current APA 7 guidelines call for listing that speaker as the author for the video. And partly this is just because it's in a standardized format, whereas in YouTube, what people put in where is kind of anything goes. But, okay, our speaker is Rob Cook, so reformat that in the normal author format of last name, comma, initial, period, space, and then the publication time. Now the TED Talk website, as you can see in the screenshot here, it doesn't list the day, just the year and the month. So for the reference, you just include the year and the month, as you see here. Then it's pretty similar to the YouTube references. We have the title in sentence case, in this case, the cost of work stress and how to reduce it. We have a note that it's a video in square brackets with a capital V. Then the platform, TED conferences, and then we have the direct link to it. If you're citing that, well, Cook, the author, Cook 2020. And because it's a video, if you're citing some passage in it or quoting that and you want to identify that specific part, we just need a timestamp. In this case, 0 minutes 35 seconds is 0 minutes 52 seconds. Now, that unpublished course packet, because it is by APA standards considered an unpublished thing, don't include it in the references list. and don't put in a parenthetical citation. Instead, you just want to refer to it clearly but informally with something like, in the provided case study, Southwest Airlines has blah blah blah, in the scenario described in the course packet, Southwest Airlines. And so a reader knows where that information is found, but since it's not a publicly accessible resource, we don't include the formal parenthetical citations and reference entry that goes with that. At this point, we're going to switch gears and look at how to apply these things. So this is a good point to grab a copy of the APA course paper template. And let's just talk through the process of how you would go from the template to outlining this. So first off, we need a title here. It doesn't need to be fancy, doesn't need to be terribly original or poetic. It just needs to be descriptive and accurate. So all these placeholders here, we're going to go ahead and delete those. And also clear out the sample references here. And now let's go ahead and get started. So I've gone ahead and just pasted the assignment instructions here into Word. And we want to go ahead and make sure that we use this as a blueprint for how to lay out this document. And one of those things is to look and see, okay, there's an instruction to use headings. And so for this one here, we will be making that an APA Level 1 heading. This one here, an APA Level 1 heading. The conclusion, also an APA Level 1 heading. These are the top level headings for the paper. And the last thing is just a note here. So this is actually something where this is a note saying to make sure you have an introduction. But if you're familiar with the APA heading rules, they actually say don't include a heading named introduction because it's considered redundant. We know that the start of the paper is the introduction. So this is actually one where what I recommend doing is blacking it out with the black highlighter. And that way you have a note saying, okay, I took care of that thing, but you don't accidentally leave it in as a heading. And because we've taken care of this, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cross that out to mark that's been done. You could also black that out, but matter of preference. Okay, so looking at this, we have, okay, make sure to review these resources. So I would say that is an instruction to use those. Generally, whenever you see something saying suggested, here it says it's a required resource, so to demonstrate that you have used it, you will need to cite it and talk about it. So going back to our references, so I've gone ahead and pasted one of the video references linked to the instructions here. And if you're wondering, yes, 60 minutes you go with, since it's written with the numerals 6 and 0, that would go before A. There's 0 through 9 and then A through Z. Okay, so we've got this video here, and just to show you, we'll copy and paste a bunch of others. Here you can see this online magazine article from Harvard Business Review Digital Articles goes after 60 minutes. And here you can see that the Groisberg et al. Article goes in between these two. So go ahead and fill those out. And now, as you're adding those, because you know that you have to cite those, you might as well go ahead and look for videos that you're probably going to be, videos and other resources that you're probably going to be citing here. Because if you're talking about Herb Kelleher's personality, the best ways to get a read about that is to actually be citing the interview with him where he talks about things. So you know that that's going to be 60 minutes, comma, and then the publication year, 2019. And you can even mark that in italics, so it's just a reminder to yourself to use that one. And you can add other sources similarly to these other ones. So that it will conclude our outlining here. So let's go ahead and do a quick recap. So we started out with a discussion of the sample assignment from the leadership program, the Doctorate in Educational Leadership program, LEAD 751. We talked about the different aspects of this assignment and what I was asking you to do. We talked about how to cite and reference the diverse source types here. And we finished with discussing how to start taking the instructions and building an outline for your paper, including adding required headings and other elements like that. Now, to encapsulate some of those things, let's review some of the basic principles when you're outlining. First, make sure that you use the assignment instructions to create a working outline. Add any specified headings from the instructions. Add and answer the questions for each prompt. When you are answering those things and writing things like your synthesis section, make sure you add logical bridges to connect the different answers into flowing paragraphs so that it's clear that you have an understanding of how they connect or do not connect and what they mean when considered together. With that, if you have any questions, feel free to send us an email at onlinewritingcenter@acu.edu, and have a good evening.